Hello friends, this is Dr. P.R. Chaudhary from KK College of Food Technology, Nasik. Today we will be studying about maturity and ripening under the course Post-Harvest Management of Fruits and Vegetables, FPT 112. Let us first study the different fruit developmental stages. In the first stage, the fruit undergoes rapid cell division. At this stage, the increase in size of the fruit is mainly because of the increase in number of cells. The next stage is cell expansion. At this stage, the cell division has completed and now the cells will start enlarging or expanding. Therefore, the fruit increases in size at this stage mainly due to only expansion. And the third stage of fruit development is maturity and ripening. At the beginning of maturity, the fruit has attained the maximum size and then the ripening changes start occurring in the fruit. So what is the difference between maturity and ripening? So mature versus ripe fruit. When the fruit is mature, it is the stage of development leading to attainment of physiological or horticultural maturity. That means at this stage, if you harvest the fruit will be ready for ripening process. The actual ripening process is result of characteristic aesthetic and or fruit quality which can be evidenced by the changes occurring in the composition, color, texture or other sensory qualities of the fruit. That means when the fruit is ripening, it will develop the color, the smell or aroma of that fruit. And the third stage is senescence. This is a new term we will be studying. Senescence is the process that follows after physiological maturity or horticultural maturity, and it will lead to death of the tissue or death of the fruit. That means after ripening, senescence will start, and that is the stage where the fruit starts decaying or decomposing. We can understand it much better using this example of tomato fruit. Now here, this is the beginning of the fruit development. In the first few stages, we see the cell division and then there will be cell expansion stage. So both the cell division and the cell expansion stage contributes to the overall growth of the fruit. So that is the growing phase of the fruit. So after growing or after complete growth, maturation phase starts. That means if you are harvesting this tomato at this stage, at the mature green stage, after harvesting that tomato can still ripen. So maturity is the maturity of that fruit at the developmental stage. After maturation, the ripening process starts. Usually maturation and ripening process can overlap each other. That means when the color change is starting, that means this ripening process has already begun. Okay, and still the fruit is undergoing the maturity stage. So in ripening, here you can see the color change of the fruit has started. The chlorophyll is degrading and the red carotenoids or red color pigments have been developing in the tomato fruit. And the last stage is the senescence or the death stage or decomposing, decaying stage of the fruit. If you don't harvest the fruit after ripening, the fruit will automatically start decaying on the plant itself, or the cells and tissues will start dying. So this is your senescence stage. So right from beginning of growth till the end of senescence, entire process is the fruit development process. So fruit development includes your growth, maturation period, ripening as well as senescence. So we already saw that maturity means the stage of development where physiological or horticultural maturity has been attained. So what does it mean by physiological or horticultural maturity? Physiological maturity is a developmental stage of fruits and vegetables when maximum growth and maturation has occurred. Whereas horticultural maturity or commercial maturity means the stage of development when a plant or plant part possesses the prerequisite for utilization by consumers for a particular purpose. So apart from this, there is third type category of maturity which is called as harvest maturity, and it usually overlaps the physiological and horticultural maturity. Harvest maturity is a stage which will allow fruits and vegetables to reach the consumers at their peak condition and develop acceptable flavor or appearance and have adequate shelf life. Now let us understand these three types of maturity with the example of banana. Now this is the green immature banana fruit. So this fruit doesn't possess physiological maturity. It is not mature, but it possesses horticultural maturity. That means this fruit can be utilized by the consumers for a particular purpose. In this case, it is like making banana chips. That's why this has horticultural maturity. The next is the banana fruit which still has certain green color on it. Means it is not completely ripe. This type of banana fruit is having physiological maturity as well as harvest maturity. Physiological maturity because now this fruit is mature enough and can ripe on its own. And harvest maturity because if you harvest the fruit at this green and yellow stage, you can transport it to the consumers from distant markets, and when it reaches the consumers, it will turn completely yellow. So that's why it will reach the consumers when it is in the peak condition of its flavor, appearance, and still have adequate shelf life. That's why it has both physiological and harvest maturity. But it will not have horticultural maturity because consumer cannot eat this fruit. It is still firm, it is not sweet enough, it is still starchy in taste. So you have to wait for few days for this fruit to attain the horticultural maturity. And the last condition is your completely ripe fruit, and this fruit will possess all three types of maturity: your physiological maturity, horticultural maturity, as well as harvest maturity. Because this is completely mature and ripe fruit. Horticultural maturity because consumers can eat it anytime, and harvest maturity because these fruits can be sold in local market and it can reach the consumer still during their peak condition of flavor, aroma, and shelf life. Now, horticultural or commercial maturity is not only applied for fruits, but it can be applied for different plant parts. Example, in case of sprouts, sprouts are nothing but the bean seeds which have sprouted. So the horticultural maturity is because these sprouts are consumed by the consumers. Next one is your stems and leaves. These are the different plant parts. Example, in case of your cabbage or lettuce, which are consumed by the consumer. That's why this can also come under horticultural maturity. Inflorescence or flower parts. Example is your cauliflower, broccoli, or artichoke. These are nothing but the flower or inflorescence parts. The next type is partially developed fruits. That means these fruits are not completely mature. Example is your okra, cucumber, green beans, sweet corn. These fruits are harvested when they are still immature. Next is fully developed fruits, as we eat in case of tomato, your apple, pear, citrus, etc. And last are roots and tubers. Example is your carrot, onion or potato. All these things are horticulturally mature because they have particular use by the consumers. Ripening, as we studied, is the process when the fruit or vegetable attains its full flavor, color, aroma, and other characteristics which are particular to that fruit or that variety. There are usually two types of fruits. We'll study them in detail in the coming next slides. The climatic fruits. In this type of fruits, mature fruits are not equal to or not considered as ripe fruits always. Okay. Whereas in non-climatic fruits, maturity is synonymous with ripening. Here is the example. Banana is a climatic fruit. So in case of banana, this first stage is a mature stage, mature green stage. Whereas when you start seeing this yellow color, these are the ripening stages. Okay. So maturity will not always be equal to ripening in case of climatic fruits. Green color is not equal to your yellow color. That means mature and ripe fruits are different. Whereas in case of non-climatic fruits, example is your citrus. This left side fruit is a immature green fruit, whereas the right side fruit is your mature as well as ripe fruit. That means in non-climatic fruit, maturity is synonymous with ripening. So this is one of the characteristics, and unless the fruit is mature and ripe, you cannot harvest it from the tree in case of your non-climatic fruits. So this is one typical characteristic of non-climatic fruits. So let us study in detail what are the different changes occurring in the fruit during ripening. So the fruit will start ripening when it has attained the maximum size. The fruit will have developed the typical color which is characteristic for that particular variety. The next change occurring will be decreasing in the firmness of the fruit. That means the fruit will start becoming soft. TSS, that is total soluble solids, will also increase. That means the sweetness of the fruit will increase and acidity will decrease. Ripening will also enhance the flavor and develop the aroma which is the typical character of that fruit. And the last change occurring will be respiration and ethylene release. There will be changes occurring in the respiration pattern as well as ethylene released by the fruit. During color change, the first thing occurs is degradation of chlorophyll, that is the pigment which gives green color. The chlorophyll will be degraded and it will help in unmasking of the existing pigments. Means in these green fruits there will be certain yellow pigments or red pigments which will be covered up because of the chlorophyll. So as the chlorophyll is removed or degraded, these pigments will become visible. So unmasking of the existing pigments will occur. And another change is the chloroplast will be converted into chromoplast. That means chlorophylls will be converted into other color compounds that are carotenoids or anthocyanin. And this change occurring from green to the color fruit is usually called as degreening. That means removal of the green color. So first step occurs is the degradation of the chlorophyll. Due to that, unmasking of the color pigments occur, as well as new pigments such as carotenoids and anthocyanin are also developed during the process. Another change which occurs during ripening is the change in texture and reduction in the firmness of fruits. Cell wall degradation is the major factor that causes softening of several fruits. This involves the degradation of structural components, mainly cellulose and pectin. Cellulose is degraded by enzyme cellulase, whereas pectin degradation involves the enzyme pectinase. Pectins are one of the important component of the cell wall, and their main function is to cross-link the cellulase and hemicellulase fibers, which usually provide the rigidity to the cell wall. Another change which occurs is enzymatic degradation of the storage polysaccharides, that is your starch. Starch is almost completely hydrolyzed to free sugars, namely glucose and fructose, and this also contributes to the loosening of the cell structure and textural softening during ripening. As the fruit starts ripening, there are changes occurring in the taste of the fruit. If you eat a raw mango, you will find that it is very acidic and tangy in taste. As compared to that, if you eat a ripe mango, it will be very sweet and it will have certain flavor and aroma. This occurs because of conversion of carbohydrate polysaccharides, that is your starch, into sugars like glucose and fructose. In addition to that, conversion also helps in modifying the texture, as we saw in the previous slide. So there is dual effect of altering taste as well as texture because of conversion of starch to sugars. As the fruit ripes, the sugars, that is total soluble solids, increases, the acidity decreases, whereas the ripening ratio, which is the ratio of total soluble solids to acidity, it starts increasing. And ripening ratio is very important in determining the flavor and quality of the ripe fruits. The breakdown of polysaccharides by the cellular enzymes not only gives the typical sweetness, but it also acts as precursors for many aromatic flavor compounds. The unique aroma of each fruit or vegetable is not present at the early stages of growth, but it develops during ripening due to the accumulation of volatiles. And these volatiles can be increased up to 1000 times at time of ripening. Fruit volatiles include compounds from different chemical families including aldehydes, alcohols, lactones, furonones, monoterpenes and esters, which usually determine the fruit aroma characteristics. Example, when the fruit is unripe, usually aldehydes and alcohols are higher in quantity, and as the fruit starts ripening, they decrease. On the other hand, aroma compounds like lactones, furonones, monoterpenes and esters, these start increasing as the fruit starts ripening, and usually these are the compounds which give the fruity, flowery or spicy aroma to the fruits. The production of volatile compounds is related to their precursors such as sugars and fatty acids. For example, sucrose content is related to the production of volatile compound furonones, whereas the synthesis of esters and alcohols is mainly because of lipid degeneration. So we already studied taste and aroma compounds. Now let us look into flavor of fruits and vegetables. Fruit flavor is made up of sugars, acids, salt, bitter compounds such as alkaloids, or flavonoids and aroma compounds. Both taste as well as aroma contribute to the flavor. Flavor of fresh fruit is determined by the taste such as sweetness, saltiness, bitterness, tangy taste, and aroma compounds which give the odor or smell to the fruit. The contribution of odor active compounds to the fruit flavors has gained increasing attention because these compounds are important for the characteristic flavor of the fruit. So, for flavor, both taste and aroma are important. When you eat any food or fruit, the flavor which you get is mainly because of the odor or the aroma compounds which you smell, and the taste which is generated on the tongue. Both the signal of smell as well as taste combine and give the flavor to that food material. And the last change which we'll study today is the changes occurring in respiration and ethylene synthesis during ripening. Now this we have to study with reference to climatic and non-climatic fruits. This is the graph which will help us to understand the changes occurring. The continuous line is of climatic fruits, whereas the dotted line represents the non-climatic fruits. So as the fruit develops, it increases in size, and at the time of maturity and ripening, it achieves the maximum size. So this is your growing pattern. Okay. Now let us understand the respiration pattern. In climatic fruit, this is the continuous line. In climatic fruit, as the fruit starts ripening, there is a peak in the respiration at the time of ripening. Whereas in non-climatic fruits, which is represented by this dotted line, there is no peak seen in respiration at the time of ripening. Similar pattern is also observed in case of ethylene. Now ethylene is a gaseous plant hormone which hastens or fastens the rate of ripening in the fruits. Therefore, it is also called as the ripening hormone. Now here you can see in climatic fruits, the ethylene has a sharp rise during ripening period. Increasing ethylene generation is observed in climatic fruits at the time of ripening. Whereas in non-climatic fruits, here you can see the ethylene level is uniform. There is no increase seen at the time of ripening. So this is the respiration and ethylene generation pattern which is different for climatic and non-climatic fruits. Let us further study in detail the differences between the climatic and non-climatic fruits. The first difference is climatic fruits can ripe after harvesting, whereas the non-climatic fruits will not ripe after they are harvested. Example we saw of the green bananas. If you keep the green or little yellow color bananas, in 1 week they will ripe completely. But if you harvest a green citrus and keep it at home for 1 week, it will never ripe on its own. Non-climatic fruits have to be ripened on the plant itself. The next difference is quality of the fruit changes drastically after harvest in climatic fruits, whereas the quality will not change in non-climatic fruits once they are harvested. Quality meaning change in color, increasing in sweetness of the fruits, development of aroma compounds. This can occur in climatic fruits even after harvesting. Whereas these changes in the texture, sweetness, aroma will not occur once the fruit has harvested in case of non-climatic fruits. So as the fruit is harvested, whatever characteristic it has, those same characteristic will remain in non-climatic fruits. Climatic fruit will exhibit peak in respiration. This we saw in the previous slide. And they will also see significant increase in CO2 production. Respiration means releasing carbon dioxide. So that's why increase in respiration will automatically increase the carbon dioxide production. In case of non-climatic fruits, we saw that there was no increasing respiration or no respiration peak observed. Therefore, there will be no significant increase in carbon dioxide production also. Another character what we saw in previous slide was ethylene will be produced during ripening in climatic fruits. We saw a ethylene peak in case of climatic fruits, whereas little or no ethylene production is observed during ripening in non-climatic fruits. So the respiration peak and ethylene peak which we see in case of climatic fruit is also known as climatic peak. Okay, that climatic peak will not be observed in case of your non-climatic fruits. Next difference is if you apply exogenous ethylene, that means if you apply ethylene externally, it will hasten the ripening process. That means it will fasten or quicken the ripening process in case of climatic fruits. This is because of autocatalytic synthesis of ethylene. Meaning when you apply ethylene externally, the fruit will also start releasing ethylene on its own, and that's why it will fasten the ripening process. No such response is observed in non-climatic fruits in response to your exogenous ethylene. So if you apply externally ethylene to non-climatic fruits, it will not fasten the ripening process. It will only change the color of the fruit, but the sweetness, texture and other characteristics will not fasten in case of non-climatic fruits. Now the examples of climatic fruits are mango, sapota meaning your chiku, papaya, banana, guava, apple, pear, peach, apricot, blueberries, kiwi fruit, avocado, muskmelon and tomatoes. Whereas in non-climatic fruit you have citrus, grapes, pineapple, watermelon, strawberry, raspberry, pomegranate, cherries, cashew, lychee, bell pepper, okra, peas, brinjal, pumpkin, etc. So with this we have completed the maturity and ripening chapter. In our next lecture we will also study what are the different factors that affect the ripening process. Thank you.